and then I gotta wait though. So Tony and I were kind of talking like about next episode. Uh, that I kind of wanted to get one out before like the beginning of July because I'm going to Italy for like
Oh, sick.
yeah, I'm going to Sicily for 10 days. So like I'm going to be gone for a while. And the only thing is I'm going to be gone like during this the Superman premiere too. So like I'm going to be like missing that.
Um,
So like I got to like stay off of social media for a while.
Oh
So that's going
man.
to be kind of annoying because I don't want to get spoiled for it. I stopped watching the trailers. It's been like fucking me up. I'm like, okay, I can't even watch these anymore. They're like revealing way too much. But we'll figure it out.
yeah, I'm down to. I think I've got some availability next week. They canceled our overtime for the rest of the month, so we could definitely eke one out before you got to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we that'll be awesome. All right, we'll figure it out. I guess we're live, so
Hello, good evening. I found my camera, so I look really ultra high def right now. But welcome back to BatYard's Finest. This evening, I'll be your hostess with the mostest, your guardian lantern from Oa, Jerry. And as always, I'm with my compatriots in no particular order. Whoever wants to go first.
I'm Josh. I'm from Metropolis.
What's up? I'm Tony. I'm from Star City.
And tonight, we will be regaling you all with a short 40-minute documentary and also a little fun tidbits about the Blair Witch in Adams, Tennessee, followed by the Blair Witch Project from 1999. Yes, I think I said the 1999 one last time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted
that's
to
the one
make
I
sure.
watched, so I.
That's the one I watched. I was like, I hope I didn't say the wrong one.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
I figured it was like the original one because I know
Yeah,
there's
I'm
like
at the
Blair Witch and like there's so many different tie-ins and different sequels. and
Yeah,
all that.
definitely like the original one that started everything.
Yeah, the original is
Before
the
we
Blair
get into
Witch Project, and then there's Blair Witch remake.
Yeah. But before we get into that, this is always, our BS, any pop culture, any news, anything we kind of been keeping under wraps to just get out and out to the general public. I've got a couple of small things, but if somebody else wants to go first, they can. Because I have to pull it back up. I didn't get a chance. My laptop wanted to act stupid.
I only have one thing. I just want to say rest in peace, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. He passed away, I think, about a week ago now, or a little less. But
Oh crap!
yeah, he's definitely a big musical talent, and like words can't really express how much he kind of like progressed music in general. So I just want to give my hats off to him and kudos to Brian Wilson making some good music.
Rest in peace. Wasn't a Beach Boys man, but I respect them for what they did for the music.
Yeah, I feel you.
I was never into like, the West Coasty type music and anything like that. But I was like, they got a couple little songs that I don't mind listening to.
They got good stuff. I think like a lot of people just kind of see on the surface level, it's like all about sun and fun, and then once you kind of like dive a little bit more into the Beach Boys, there's a little bit more to it than that. So it's definitely commendable for sure.
Tony, please go ahead while I look for what I'm trying to find.
I have a really stupid one that's related to the Superman trailers, and I think it's really funny. And I didn't even know it was a thing until I was like looking at Instagram in Canada. So apparently, Josh, I don't know how many Superman trailers you've watched. I know that you stopped watching them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I watched the majority of them, like the bulk. So I'm trying not to.
I don't even know how we can have a conversation about this. It's something so stupid and inconsequential. I just thought it was funny. There's a scene in the trailer where Superman is walking towards the camera, and there's like an angry mob, and someone throws a can at the back of his head.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
He closes his eye and he flinches, and people got pissed. They were like, "That's not Superman." They got pissed, and then they changed the trailer, and now he doesn't flinch anymore. It's so strange.
Yeah, he doesn't blink anymore when they throw a can at him.
It's so strange.
Fans are like, "Oh, if bullets bounce off him, he doesn't flinch for that. Why would he flinch for someone throwing a can at him?" And then my argument to that is like, it's like more of an emotional hit than like a physical one. You know, like these people are like supposed to be, you know, his equals basically, or like people like he's trying to protect, and they're basically ganging up on him and attacking him and saying like he's scum, and it's obviously going to internally affect him. So that's kind of how I would interpret it, but whatever. I don't know. People get pissed over stupid shit, especially with comic book movies. They get like mad over the costume. They get mad. They just get mad over everything. You get mad over Gardner's haircut, even though that's kind of how he looks in the comics.
That's how he looks. He looks like a goofball.
Yeah, he looks stupid.
Me personally, I've never been one of those people. Oh, the movie has to be accurate to the comic down to the last panel. Look, I've said it before, and I'll always say it again. If we did that, there'd be no way to make superhero movies.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not all of them, but some of the time they have to get, you know, grotesque. They have to get extremely violent, and they have to, you know, depict something that's very uncomfortable to look at. And if we translated all that to the big screen, there would be so much backlash. Whoever did it, they would be blacklisted from movies for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mind, you know, a certain amount of creative liberties within reason, obviously, you know, to make it, you know, more into what you envision for your interpretation of a project. Or even if you're like, I'm going to take the concept from this, but I'm just going to tweak it a little bit and just, you know, make it a little more stylish, I guess, would be the proper term, for lack of a better reason. Yeah. But yeah, I have a cousin that's like that, and I always just laugh when he talks about stuff not being accurate, and I'm like, you're never gonna find enjoyment if you always nitpick. You know, it's
exactly.
Like, it's different if they're trying to be original, excuse me, to the source material, because then at that point you can say, well, you know, A through E they did okay on, but they kind of messed up a bit on C and B, you know. But a movie is supposed to be enjoyed. It's for the entertainment of what's on the screen, not what it's coming from. Yeah. I think that's really dumb, and that sour grapes.
Yeah, I think even if like that was something like even if people thought that was like a meaningful change, like meaningful changes happen to these comics in the comics anyway. It's like Batman has evolved so much as a character. Like the 60s Batman is not the Batman we have now.
Right.
Like why be upset of something small and inconsequential changes? I don't know.
Well, it's all an interpretation of a comic book or a character. You know, like you don't want every comic book to be the same comic book, or there will be no story development or change in the character. So, like, you want change in the film
paste forever.
Exactly. So you want change in film as well as the comics. So, like, bring it on, make it different. Like, I would definitely stay true to the character, but like if you're gonna make like little changes, that's fine. Like, there's different interpretations of all these characters. So, I don't know.
Comics reset universes at the drop of a hat. I'm kind of done with this storyline. Let's just reset the universe and try again.
Yeah, that's basically what they're doing now with the whole DC universe.
Yeah.
That I'm still holding out to see how good this is going to be.
A lot is riding on this movie, but I've been seeing like a lot of positive feedback behind it, like the marketing, and it seems like they're kind of like putting Superman logos all over the world. I don't know how much of it is like actual footage or what is AI. I think some of it's actually real, because I saw the Empire State Building had like light up Superman symbol, and I saw something in Egypt like a flag or something. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been kind of interesting with the promotional material, and then I guess they're doing like Daily Planet like news updates. I've been seeing, which is kind of fun.
That's
You know,
cool.
so it's all been kind of like fun stuff. You know, like fun marketing gimmicks and everything. And I've seen like their like pre-sales of the tickets for this movie, and like it's like one of the highest like pre-sold movies, at least in like recent times. So it looks like it's definitely going to make its money. I don't know. That doesn't say if it's going to be good or not. I would think so because James Gunn made all those Guardians movies, and those were all great. So I really like those. So
Yeah, and I don't really have much. It's just just other movie news. I didn't know. I personally didn't know about this until I saw it I saw the news over the weekend. But the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie apparently did really good in theaters.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, I might go watch it because that's one of the few DreamWorks movies I did enjoy watching. From what I think is 1, 2, and 3. I thought they were pretty good, and I was like, it's not Kung Fu Panda, but because I'm a big Jack Black fan, but I also really liked Kung Fu Panda, and I was like, oh, it looks like it might be pretty good, so I might give it a chance and see it. And then in other movie news that's coming out, I don't know if you guys have heard anything about it, but Pete Davidson has a horror movie that's coming out.
okay.
And I was like, oh, that's how I haven't watched any trailers for it, but I was like, oh, that's a different perspective for him.
Is it like a comedy horror or like what is it?
I just know he has one coming out. I outside of that, haven't looked anything else into it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
And then the biggest one is we're finally getting a Spaceballs 2.
Oh, yeah. I was
after 38 years. And I was like, I thought it was a joke at first because that's been, the trend over the last couple of years. A movie gets a sequel that's been out 30 plus years or almost 40 something years. And I'm like, why now out of all times? Like, are you just doing this because Disney owns Star Wars and they've just absolutely ruined the franchise with a lot of the TV shows and movies? Right. And I also finally watched Ahsoka. I'm very disappointed in how they handled what could have been a great character. But that's a whole nother conversation for later.
Yeah. All of Star Wars is like falling apart right now. But like, at least they have a lot of material to work with. Like you're saying, they have the sequels, like the Disney stuff, and they have the prequels to work with. They could have a Spaceballs version of Jar Jar, which will basically just be Jar Jar. Like, how do you make that work? How do you make that worse? You really can't. You can't even make that like more comedic.
I hope Spaceballs 2 is good. I enjoyed the first one. I finally watched it, I think a couple years ago. I was like, let me sit down and watch Spaceballs because I only ever catch like either the first like 30-ish minutes or like the last 20. It is never like a full run in between because I'm always doing something or I have something to do later.
That was definitely one I watched a lot as a kid. Like I would watch that a lot.
Yeah, and it's fun. I think it's like out of all the parody movies, I think that one did the best job, just poking a lot of fun at what Star Wars was at the time.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the better ones. I mean, it's Mel Brooks too, and that's like one that he was like really on the ball, with Blazing Saddles and Spaceballs and Young Frankenstein. So like those were all great spoof movies. And I just hope they like keep the effects kind of like more practical, like of that era, but like I feel like they won't because like Star Wars is so CGI based now. It's like, I don't even know what they're gonna do. And I guess Rick Ramirez is gonna be in it, and he hasn't like acted in forever, and he wasn't in any of the new Ghostbusters movies. I mean, he's gonna be in this though. Because I guess he's like a main character, so it's a little different. But
and then just for the last, I think I said it last time, and please forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But we're finally getting a new Tron movie that's not based in the game universe anymore. They're coming to the the real city, and also we're getting another Predator movie. and it looks kind of goofy. I'm not too pleased with the costume design because the Predator looks like a Predator-human hybrid. But I think that might be subject to change. I hope it is because I like the monstrosity aspect of it. Like this is a completely foreign creature coming here as a part of his species ritual and rites to do whatever they do. I don't know. I don't remember much about Predators. I haven't watched the movie in a long time or read the comics.
I watched some of Prey, like the newer one. I didn't finish it, but I was watching the beginning of it, and I did like that. It was like a different interpretation, like through history. And I was kind of like it was more with Native Americans versus a predator. So I was like kind of hoping they go delve deeper in that, like with the sequels, like it's like Predator versus Vikings, or like Predator versus I don't know Spartans or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was also thinking too.
Yeah,
like give us a Predator through the different civilization points of mankind, because imagine how cool it would be to see, I don't know, like the triumvirate, Julius Caesar and his crew go up against a predator in ancient Greece.
Right, exactly.
I think that'd be kind of badass.
Really fun. Yeah.
Or even, if you want to go to a different continent, you could go to oh God, I know I'm gonna mess it up, but the Maui warriors, and how they had their their war paint, well not paint, but their war tattoos on their face, the big weapons and everything like that, fighting the predator, almost equal, so to speak, in terms of like I don't have any armor protection. I'm just gonna fight you with my pure brute strength and nothing else. I would want to see that personally. Like just get 60 Maui warriors against like 2 predators and just have them go to absolute field day with each other, like Greco-Roman style in the Coliseum.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in that. Like as long, like, I don't know, as long as I do something a little different. I don't know how I feel about the Predator franchise as of now. I mean, like I would definitely be into it too if they brought back Arnold. I'll go like, okay, I'll definitely watch it, but I don't know how I feel. I got to see a little bit more.
Yeah. But that's all that I have, unless somebody else has anything else.
I think that's all I have. Tony?
Not really. There's a new Resident Evil game that got announced, but that's about it, I think.
Oh yeah, Requiem.
Yeah, I'm curious what that is.
I'll text you, Tony, if you saw that, because I was like, "There's no way we're finally getting Resident Evil 9."
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's odd that they're going back to like Raccoon City, but it's cool.
You know what my personal theory is, and a lot of people agree with me when you think about it in concept. What has been Resident Evil's biggest competitor in terms of horror? Silent Hill.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Because Resident Evil, they do a fantastic job with the body horror, the mutations, just showing just how visceral something can be and just how gross. But Silent Hill has always been the psychological aspect, and even within that, they go the full distance. They don't shy away from anything.
Yeah.
Like somebody being assaulted, somebody miscarrying, the tragedy of death and loss. Excuse me, I'm stuffing my craw with the chili mango right now. But also, not Resident Evil, but Silent Hill is finally coming back after a very long time of not making games.
Yeah.
And I know for me, Resident Evil 8 was kind of lackluster compared to some of the other titles. So I'm happy that we're going back to Raccoon City, where the nightmare truthfully started. But I'm not going to hold out any hopes. I'm going to wait and see and watch this development very carefully. Because I'm going to get it, obviously. But if they're like, oh, this is going to be the next step in the story that really brings everything back together again, oh, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of don't really even remember how 8 ended. I know that there's the whole Ethan arc that they're doing now, but I think that this is supposed to be about like bring back like Leon in or something. I don't know. Chris is already involved. I think this is supposed to be like bring Leon somehow into it and wrap it all up.
But,
I don't know enough about Resident Evil to even have an opinion. I played one of them. I couldn't even tell you which one.
But that's enough of that. Let's move on to something that I've been sitting on this for a very long time. And I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and pop the top on this so we can get this puppy rolling. So now we will get into a 40-minute documentary about the Blair Witch in Adams, Tennessee. And I'm going to give this to our resident folklore master, Josh.
Oh, no. Okay. So it's been a bit since I watched this. It's been like at least 2 weeks. But basically, the Blair Witch is like a folklore, or like there is some like actual history to it about this woman. I think back in the 1800s, she basically like put a curse, or something went on, and like people are talking about like seeing like specters like in the forest of this small town in Tennessee. And Jerry, forgive me, I forget the name of the town. Do you remember?
I know it's in Adams, Tennessee. Give me 1 second.
I think okay.
I just
Yeah,
always
you're right.
Adams, Tennessee to just make it simple.
I think, well, there's the Bell family of, yeah, you're right, of Adams. In the early 19th century, I guess the spirit is named Kate, and it would torment the family. And basically, it's been going on for a prolonged time. There's a Blair Witch Bible that basically was like a third-hand source of the events that occurred back in the time of like when it originally happened, and people are basically claiming that they're seeing specters in the woods of today, and it's like a big draw into the tourism of that area of Adams, Tennessee, and like I guess especially since the Blair Witch Project, I think that probably helped the numbers of tourists go up a little bit more. It's just basically like the Blair Witch Project's like origin, like in the real world, like kind of where they got some of their ideas. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and people just like claim that they see specters in the night, some noises, and some weird, strange phenomenon in the caves that are within the Adams Forest over there.
That's perfect. That was a 10 out of 10 review.
Thanks. I had to like refresh myself.
So I guess I should give a little context on why I picked this. Like it's, and really, this was something that I was inspired by from Tony's pick for Gangs of New York. Because I was like, I don't usually pick anything that's kind of based from Tennessee or pick anything that has to do with Tennessee history. And I know, Josh, you're a big folklore person. I am up to a point. I'm more cautious learning about folklore because, obviously the Blair Witch, there's skepticism around anything like that. But me personally, I'm like, what you go out and invite into, like your heart, your spirit, your mind, it'll follow you. So I was like, I've always known of Blair Witch, obviously, because I live in Tennessee. But, seeing the different things and hearing different stories about it, I'm like, I'm never going to go to Adams, Tennessee, number 1, and look for this crazy thing.
I was going to ask if you have been there. Okay.
No, it's like the thought has been there before when I was, a little bit younger, obviously. I was like, oh, I'll go to Adams, Tennessee, just to say, hey, I went to go see the Blair Witch and whatnot.
Right.
But it's also another thing, too. I don't care what anybody says. Deep down, every animal is a spiritual, a creature. So like how they were talking about seeing specters, you hear things, you see things, and there's always something just kind of going on that's awry and never making too much sense. I've always been cautious of that because, okay, if there really is something out there that's, causing people to go missing, that's doing things to, kind of play small tricks on people and things like that, I'm not going to go do anything to make it actively chase me or piss it off, because then it's going to be like, well, what happened to him? We don't know. He was fine. Literally what always happens. He was fine one day, and then the next minute he went crazy. And I am a big paranormal person, so like ghosts, spirits, wraiths, revenants, like anything in that realm, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do anything to be a foolhardy person and just taunt something because I don't believe in it. And you can't see the wind, but the wind's out there.
Yeah.
That's just a natural fact of nature. I can't see spirits, but that doesn't mean like, if I go out to these woods and I see a makeshift grave and I disturb it, that spiritual energy has been disturbed, and now it's going to attach itself on me, and then it's going to come seeking revenge.
I would agree with you, like, especially what you said, like, whatever your mind's eye kind of invites inside your own psyche is kind of what you take. So, like, say you don't believe in the Bell Witch, or like versus someone who does, like the person who believes in it, like still kind of takes in that's their reality. That's like what they accept. So like it's real to them in their point of view. So like you can't really take that away from them. That's going to be what they think and what they believe. So it's real to them. If it's not real to somebody else, it's real to the other person. And you can't really take that perspective away. So like I do definitely agree with you. Like regardless, it's true to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm more skeptical about ghost things. I usually like to think that there's rational explanations for a lot of the things that have been reported. But I am with you, Jerry. I'm not someone that will invite that upon myself.
I would agree.
I will never go to some Satan stuff out of pure curiosity, no matter how much I don't believe that that's like anything happening. It's in case it is, it's like I don't want that invited on myself. Anything like that, I'm there with you.
I was just gonna say, I think my sense of adventure, like, would like to go to like these kind of places. Like, I don't know if I was like, if I was gonna make like a documentary, like the Blair Witch Project or something like that, I would do something like that. Which like you never know what you're gonna get out of that, as the film kind of tells you. Like you don't know what you're getting yourself into, kind of situation. But I don't know. I just like getting into adventures and kind of learning more about history and just like even what people believe in folklore, because even in folk tales there's always some essence of truth to it, like when you like dig deeper and deeper. Like for example, you take the Cyclops, the Greek mythology. It's believed to be that the Cyclops came from a skull of a woolly mammoth that was found like in ancient times, and the woolly mammoth skull has just like a giant gaping hole in the front of its skull because that's where its trunk was, and they just like saw that and it was like, oh, that's where the eye was. It was just one singular eye. So a mammoth and a Cyclops is they're equally fantastical in my opinion. Like those are two like still amazing creatures regardless. Either way they're still pretty on par, like how imaginative they really are, and one was actually existed. So I just find that fascinating with everything. Even like, I don't know, you could say that with any religion or any folklore. There's always some essence of truth, and you really kind of got to dig down like an archaeologist to really figure out like what actually is the truth. And like I said, you can't kind of take that away from somebody else either. So it's kind of like your own take of that.
Because another reason I also picked this was, obviously everyone has their own beliefs, and I don't have anything against people who believe something that's different from me, because it's like you said, Josh, it's a learning tool to get to know someone on a very deeper connection level.
Right.
But I was gonna ask, do you guys have any like paranormal stories that have been like, I went here and it was completely normal, but all of a sudden I just felt like this. Not like cold air, like on the back of my neck.
No,
but,
you
know what I mean? Like you just felt something that didn't feel right, or you felt the comforting presence of maybe someone you were thinking about, or someone who was very important to you just come at a time you really needed them. Just anything like that. If you guys need a minute, I have a couple stories I can say.
I have a couple too, but I'll let Tony go first.
I think you might be thinking of the same one I'm thinking of, Josh. Do you remember this? The Ghost of Yankee Jim?
that was so stupid. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that is a good one. We Tony and I were gonna make basically like a pseudo documentary, but it was just like some ghost that we just made up. No, but what was it? It was from a YouTube video.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, we were gonna make like basically like a Blair Witch like spoof, but with like this ghost called Yankee Jim, and like we're just like going around Rhode Island and Newport, just filming shit and going like, "Oh, there's a shadow. It must be the ghost, the Yankee Jim." We're just like making fun of all those ghost shows. Yeah, we're just like fucking around, and then we're just gonna make it like a pseudo documentary. I still have the footage somewhere. I definitely have it still.
Yeah.
I just never put it together. But it was.
I was also referring to when we went to Battleship Cove with Matt. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, right before this, I think we were inspired by this. We went to Battleship Cove, which is like this thing in Massachusetts where it's just a bunch of battleships that were involved in World War II, right? Like they're decommissioned battleships, and one of them is in their open. You can just crawl through them, and varying like degrees of size. Some of them are like small ships, and then they get huge with huge mess halls, and you can crawl through them and climb through them, and there's portholes with these ladders that you can climb through. And we went with it was me, Josh, and my buddy Matt, and Matt climbed through one of the ladders after us, and he was convinced that someone grabbed the collar. It felt like someone. He gets off the ladder and he's like, "Who did that?" And we're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he was convinced that one of us like yanked his hoodie, and he was like, "If you guys didn't do it, something yanked my hoodie." He's like, "I felt it. Something yanked my hoodie." And he held on to that for a while, and we were like, "We're here with you."
Yeah, we were at least 15 feet away from him.
Yeah,
we weren't even close to him, and like we're just like, "Oh, maybe it got snagged on like I don't know."
But he was like he was adamant. He was like, "No, something like grabbed and pulled."
But like neither of us were paying attention to him enough to like claim one thing or the other.
Yeah,
but he definitely really believed that.
That's funny. That's pretty funny.
I guess I have two. I'll do the longer one first, I guess. Well, I would go to growing up as a kid. I would go to Mateo's. He was he was on the show, and he really claimed that his house was haunted, and I would sleep over there all the time. Like, and he would like tell me like there's this fire pit, and I guess like there's two children like carvings on the side of the fire pit, and like he claimed that like the boy cried, and like I think he saw like a entity or something in his room, and like I never like I just didn't believe it, and like I never could take it away from him. Well, I never noticed anything, but I just remember that was like a big thing at Matt's house. It was like, oh, it's haunted, and I would always make fun of it. But like I wouldn't want to try to be an asshole, but like it was just like something I never really witnessed either when I was there, and I would go there pretty often. But like another thing is, I guess like the more positive aspect. I went to see my Uncle Mike a couple of years ago. And he was in the hospital, and it was like my last visit seeing him, and I didn't think it was going to be. It just kind of like happened. And I saw him in the hospital, and he said, "Oh, he had a dream of me on top of the mountain, like waving to him on top of the mountain." And then I don't know, like a week or two later, he passed away. And like now, whenever I go hiking, like on top of the mountain, I always wave to my Uncle Mike.
No,
it's crazy. Yeah,
I understand that. Like I got a similar story. It's like I understand the sentiment you mean. So I've got two. One's like you said, one's good, but one was a really tragic one. Well, both were. It'll be explained here in a second. So I guess the better feeling one. I had a very good friend and coworker. He was, shot and killed trying to do, help his stepson, get off the streets and, be a better person. And it just, for a long time, it really ate me up inside. And, even now I still have moments where I just gotta, take a step away because I just miss him a whole lot because he was a great guy. He had his faults, but his faults didn't define him. He definitely moved past all that. And it was one day I don't even remember what I was doing. I think I'd come home from work. I was like, man, today's just been kind of a real bogus day. I just need to, just lay down for about 15 minutes and just recharge. And I guess, I don't know if I was just so tired or if it was just him reaching out to me. But I as soon as I closed my eyes, all I saw was just, just bright white. And I felt an extreme like presence of peace, and it freaked me out because I'm like, am I dying? Because I was like, because it was like people say, you just see the white gates, you like hear the angels essentially, and I just, I closed my eyes back, I saw that same, bright white, and I said, you know what, if this is a message from somebody, I'm gonna just keep my eyes closed and just listen wholeheartedly. And I guess while my eyes were closed, what felt like was hours and hours was probably just a couple minutes at a time. But when I woke back up, I just felt an immense sense of relief, like like you were saying, hey, I appreciate you missing me. We were always good buddies at work, and whenever I had an emergency and I knew I could always call and count on you, thank you for always being a good friend and helping me out. And it just, whenever I have those days, I just think back on that because it just, it really touched me that it was, at that particular moment when, I was just really not at my wit's end, but I was like, man, I'm just kind of over what's going on. I need me a break for myself. And that's one of those stories I always keep close to my heart. And then another one was I had to also while I was at work, we were doing a donation drop off to one of the Masonic organizations that's here in Tennessee. I think it was the Freemasons. And it was like, the second I walked in, like it was very textbook movie. Like I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I was just like, man, something just doesn't feel right in here. Like this something about this place just isn't sitting right with me. Like I got to get out of here. Something's like there's something going on that I don't know. Like I just felt the need. I had to get out and get away quick. And everybody else kind of said that same thing. Like, while we were in there, some like it was just this presence that felt not demonic or evil, but it felt unwelcoming, I guess would be the right term I'm looking for. And it just like I still think back on it because I have to obviously pass by the building for like just driving around town and working different odd ends things. But I always just wonder to myself, man, what was that one particular instance? Because it just like nobody was making any jokes about it. Like everybody was just, like real quiet and just drop dead serious. Like how you're in a, like a life or death situation. Everything's like, okay, we got to really, get in and get out, and we're not doing no other bullshit mixed in with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was definitely an odd experience. I've never been back in that building again, thank goodness. But if I ever did, I tell them like, look, I'll just hold this door. I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely like locations that have like good and bad vibrations. I wouldn't know if it's like, I wouldn't say it's like maybe not a spiritual sense or like, like you could just tell that there's something
like there's an
aura.
Yeah. Or like the hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up. Like you kind of know something's going on, or like it's probably like an instinctual thing too. Like, back in ancient times, humans and predators, like you would like kind of sense like that there's like a predator in the forest or something like by you. So like I feel like that is definitely like an instinctual thing, like probably like a sixth sense that like people don't really talk about. I think it's definitely real.
Yeah, but it's like I said, whatever people believe in, you can't deny, a very strong, like, just bodily reaction to, an experience or, being in a place. Like, it's because like going to a cemetery. You go to a cemetery, you're gonna feel, very overwhelmed with like, okay, I'm here to pay my respects to a loved one. I want to be respectful to, all the other, departed loved people who are here. You always say, excuse me for stepping on your grave, or, I promise I'll be real quick. I'm just going to step over you. You just want to be respectful to those who aren't here with us. Or like how if you go to, like a church or any other place of worship, some people feel a very strong sense of peace, comfort, and anything kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had like moments where like I had sleep paralysis and like I felt like an entity or something was like on top of me, but like I looked a little bit more into it, and I think it's just like your mind playing tricks on itself because it's like in a weird state of consciousness where it's like in between sleeping and not. So like I always just kind of like looked into like more of the scientific aspects in that regard, because like like when you're kind of like in lucid state or lucid dreaming, it could just be like whatever's kind of popping in your head at that point.
Yeah. And this was, I don't want to stay on this too long because I know some people, it's something they could talk about for a little bit, and others they're like, I don't really want to talk about this because it's a hard thing to talk about things about.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to digest, and you don't want to like say something that like will make you look crazy, but it's definitely an experience that you definitely had. You can't. No one can really take that away from anybody.
Yeah, because it's like how you said with your Uncle Mike, he had that dream of you waving to him on top of a mountain, and every time you do, you wave to him because it's like you feel that connection.
Yeah. It's just funny you said that, he said that to me in person. It was just something it definitely stuck.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Everybody's got a story or two like that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to start crying horrifically while we're recording. So we're now going to move on to the Blair Witch Project 1999. I've been waiting to do this for a long time. And I'm actually going to take the reins on this one for once. I usually give it to you guys, kind of mix things up. I'm like, I like talking about it.
No, I hear you.
So we will now be discussing the 1999 Blair Witch movie, which essentially kind of re-sparked interest in, the found footage movies and things of this nature, of just the horror and suspense without seeing anything. You just watch the descent of people. And it starts off with three friends, Heather, Mike, and Josh. Not our Josh, a different Josh. I didn't know his name was Josh either. I didn't pick it for that reason in any capacity.
I was wondering that because they scream Josh so many times.
Yeah, I was like,
I get to a point, I'm just like, shut up, please, just stop screaming.
Yeah, I was like, just stop screaming. God, he's dead. But, Heather has this idea of like, I want to make a documentary about the Blair Witch. And she titles this movie, the Blair Witch Project. And they're going around town asking different people, like, hey, you guys know anything about the Blair Witch? Where can we find her? Like, what information can you give us? And a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't really want to get too involved in that because, I'll save that for after my synopsis. But, they get their camping packs, some tents, their gear, and they go out into this forest looking for the Blair Witch. And, in the beginning, they don't really find anything. Things are kind of normal. But as usual with things of this nature, when you go looking for something paranormal, it's going to come to you. And there was just a big, slow descent. They were noticing little odd things that weren't there in the beginning that were there. They started seeing effigies. They started hearing, like children's whispers and laughs. They started hearing, like, noises of something that was trying to get them and stuff. And, obviously, the as things continue to go on, everyone is declining mentally because of just lack of sleep, lack of food, just the stress of you can't figure out where you're going, and then also the fact of the matter that no matter what's going on, there's always just this dumb camera pointing at you, and you just don't have your sense of reality anymore. And obviously, with each character, they go through different stages of cabin fever. You know, Mike in the beginning, he was just kind of laughing to himself, just rocking back and forth, like, "Oh, we're dead. We're not getting out of here." But Heather and Josh, not our Josh, they were like, everything's fine. We've got this map. We're gonna get back to the car and get out of here. But things just keep going and going and escalating to the point where some of their belongings are disturbed and thrown awry. And one of the gentlemen, his canteen had like this blue slime crap on it, and he was like, why was my stuff the only one messed with out of everybody else's? And then of course, the further things go on, somebody goes missing. And what happens when somebody goes missing? You stop what you're doing, your sense of survival is gone, and you're like, okay, we got to go find this person so we can just hightail it out of here. And then eventually they stumble upon another set of, I guess you could call it an effigy or like a headstone, something. I guess a marker, because on the inside there's a tied bloody handkerchief with his tongue in it that Heather just starts freaking out about, like, oh my God, oh my God. And then, obviously she has the infamous scene that's been recreated where she's just in the tent apologizing, like, this is all my fault. I'm so sorry. Mike, Josh, my parents, my mom. Like, I didn't mean to do any of this. I was really naive. I didn't understand the full gravity of what I was doing, going out looking for this powerful spirit. And now it's going to take us. And the only thing that's going to be left is just this footage that we have. So if somebody has it, please don't come here doing what we did, learn from our mistake, so on and so forth, like that. And eventually they reach a deserted house, and just one at a time, the Blair Witch just separates them to continue draining just, their mental stability, just drain them physically, spiritually, mentally, to just attack them while they're at their weakest. And that's how the film ends. So I have to say, this is always, and I've been waiting to say this forever. If you know anything about stories like this, or even true folk tales from people who still live in areas like this, like with Appalachia, the people will tell you, don't go to that side after this time because people go missing and you're never going to be found. And then it's always a joke, like they'll sit there on their porch playing their little banjo. But, that is a true statement. If somebody who lives in the area tells you, hey, the forest 50 miles up the road, don't go there when the sun sets because there's something that lives out there that has a history of taking people like you and having them go missing to never be found. No bodies, no gear, no clothes, no nothing. And honestly, I fully blame Heather for all of it because, like, yes, this was her idea for her project for school, but you could have, just went to your local library, just kind of not even go to the local library. You could have just went to the area, did maybe 7 to 8, lengthy interviews, talking to people, and then you could have called that a happy day. You could have stayed where there's people continuously. If something goes wrong, guess what? Okay, we know they were in this town, so let's question everybody in this town. So we know that at least they have been confirmed to be seen here. But I know I did a lot of talking. Guys, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, no, this one, yeah, I just want to say, I watched this movie when I was super young, and I think that one of the strengths of this movie is like just how real it feels. I don't know. I think this is kind of off topic a little bit, but when you watch this movie when you're super young, like you can give yourself that suspension of disbelief, and I think I did that on purpose. Like I knew it was a movie, but also like when that title crawl came up, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put myself in the frame where I think it's real, and then you start thinking it's real, and you're like, oh, I'm actually watching found footage. I don't know. Watching this as a kid was great, and I think the viral marketing for this was great. I think making it seem like it's something that happened through that is great. The found footage aspect is definitely a huge strength of the movie. Just like, yeah. And then what else? I had one other thing that I wanted to mention about this. I kind of completely forgot.
When you saw this, when like you're young, so you knew it was already like a fictional movie, or
Yeah, I had it on VHS. Like I knew. I think the internet was a little younger, and it's like I knew it was fictional, but like when you're like young enough, you can like watch something and be like you watch Freddy Krueger, and you're like, you know, this is
you
a
put
movie.
yourself in it. Yeah.
You know this is a movie, but you like I remember watching Freddy Krueger. I know it's a movie, but like when I go to sleep, I'm still like, oh fuck, the Dream Master.
Yeah, you're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I watch it and I'm like, oh shit, maybe this is real. Like maybe this is a found footage because it was done so well for someone that's like, when you're like 8, you're like, I've never seen anything like this, especially in like 2009 when I probably watched this. It's like I'd never seen anything like that. So I think like I can't even imagine watching this on release. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was super cool about the movie that I've always heard, and I did a little bit more research. I kind of what I thought had happened from what I'd heard is they just kind of threw them in the woods and just did shit around them to scare them. But they had a script. Like it wasn't just doing random shit. They had a script, but they didn't give the actors the script, and they did random shit around them to scare them. And it was all pre-planned, like all of it. And they just had them film their own reactions, which I think is like a crazy ingenious way to make a movie.
Yeah, I would agree. I looked into the behind the scenes a little bit after watching the movie, and I almost wish there's a movie of the making of the movie. I feel like, for me personally, I feel like that would have been more interesting for me. But like as this movie is, in itself, like it's definitely one of the groundbreaking movies. You know, it's like one of the original found footage films, and like you said, Tony, it's like very authentic. Like the acting is actually really good in it for like especially like, you know, for not really known actors, and that's what makes it more believable. It's just like, you know,
it looks like average everyday people still reported this.
No.
It's like I've known of this for years, but you know, seeing it, I'm like, this still holds up to, you know, like a modern standard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you still got your grainy camera that you would use for a found footage like this. You still have people who don't take something like terribly seriously going into a scenario like this. Like there's so many just realistic aspects. I'm like, you could show this to a modern, you know, like cast of like young adults to teenagers, and they would think this is pretty scary. I mean, which it is. I was, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared because, you know, you never see anything, but it's the descent into insanity that really just gets to you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, you see the deterioration of each character like slowly progress, which is like really well done. And like you were saying, Tony, like they just threw the actors in, and I guess they like gave them GPS coordinates, so the director and the cinematographer weren't even like with them. So like they trained the actors how to use the cameras, and then they would have a GPS coordinate, and then they would have all the camera equipment and like basically not a script but a layout of what they wanted the scene, how they wanted the scene to progress, and like what was each character's motivation. And I guess they like slowly actually tortured the actors, like not like physically in a way, but like they gave them less food. I guess physically, like they gave them like less food like reserves, so like they're like more angry and like more sleep deprived by like waking them up in the middle of the night, and just like, so like they're still gonna feel that like aspects of, you know, misery and like being scared, and like they're out in the woods actually for real. So like that's why the acting is, I think, really really well done. because they're kind of like actually in the elements. That's why I would love to see like a movie of like how they made this and just like it would be kind of funny. Just like I was thinking in the back of my head, it was just like the directors going like, "All right, we're gonna just fuck with them." Just like on the side, like
It's Sam Raimi again.
Exactly. And then it's not even. They don't even. That's not. They're like the movie is like they're not even making a movie. Like the movie is
like,
just them fucking with them. You know.
It's just like Jackass.
Yeah, basically.
Like I definitely
they
thought,
think they're in a
this is
movie.
people.
But that's kind of what I was picturing when I heard like how they made it, and I would have loved to see kind of that version of like what this is. But like I said, the acting's pretty authentic. Like the screaming got kind of annoying. I didn't really like the characters too much. I think I liked the girl the most because like I don't know, she had the most ambition and like drive, and like the other guys were just like, oh yeah, we're here. I have a camera, I guess, you know, and like they kept like blaming her for everything, which like obviously this is her project, like she's kind of the helm, but at the same time like they weren't doing anything to help the situation. They're just like freaking out, which is like the worst thing you could do in that situation because you're just wasting energy and resources and just time, and you're not coordinating anything at that point.
Kicking the map into the water.
Yeah, what was that? So like that's what I like. I kind of like missed that part. Like so, like did Mike have the map? Like so, like
I think it was Mike had the map, and he was like, the map's been useless, and I got rid of it, and I was like, okay, so you're the dummy here.
He's stupid. Yeah, okay, that's what I figured that it was. I didn't realize he kicked it. I knew he got rid of it somehow, but like he claimed he didn't have it for a while, so that's what kind of like threw me off a little bit.
And then there was like a scene where he just starts laughing maniacally, and he's like, you know what's funny? He's like, I threw it in the water. I kicked it in the water. It's gone.
Yeah, okay. Because at first you kind of led to believe like the Blair Witch did it, and it's just like Mike being an idiot.
Yeah, that's one thing I was kind of always been curious about with this movie is like, did they? Do you think they like in the script of the story? Do you think that they just kind of naively got lost in the forest, or the Blair Witch like kind of some Twilight Zone type magic where it's like no matter what you do, you're like trapped in the center of the forest no matter what? Because like when I
think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think it's an equal 50-50. Like I think in the beginning they just generically got lost reading a map, but then I would say about halfway when they were trying to get back, the Blair Witch was it was after they had found those like that the stone markers for unmarked graves.
Yeah,
I think once they got to that point, that was the Blair Witch taking hold.
I would agree. Yeah, I think they had a point in the story that they could have turned around and like been fine, but then they went past that and they're at the point of like no return, And like say you are hiking and you are lost in the fucking woods, like it's scary regardless if there's a witch or not, like you're fucking lost. It's the dark. You don't know where you are. Yeah, you're in the middle of the woods. There could be anything out there. There could be like, an axe murderer, which like the likelihood, who is pretty low, but like, it could be anything, or a fucking bear in the woods, like an actual animal, that's going to like feast on you. Like some shit could happen. So it's scary regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting lost, especially like Josh said in the forest, like the only time I've been in a wooded area is, just go help somebody, just move some lumber. But it was definitely like, oh, if I don't pay attention to the, like, because the guy I helped, he said, like, these trees I use as my marker so I get back. And if you don't see them, stop and just start screaming at the top of your lungs so I know where to find you. Like, and that's a real thing. Like, being lost and not knowing the area is extremely scary. Because it's just like getting lost in a city. You don't know anybody. You can't call for help. You don't know who's going to try to hurt you or help you. Like you're in a very real dangerous scenario.
Yeah, that's true. Like at least in a city, there are other humans you could kind of like talk to, but you never know who you're going to interact with at the same time,
Yeah.
especially if you're in a shady spot. You
Yeah.
don't really want to talk to people there.
And I just want to piggyback off what Tony said. I do think one of the biggest strengths of this movie is just how improvised their dialogue was.
Yeah.
Because you can look and tell, like, okay, that wasn't scripted. They said that on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
But, excuse me. But, for somebody like me, when they got to the point of the effigies and she just kept recording them and the dudes were saying, like, turn the camera off, like, stop, stop, stop.
Yeah.
I think that was the point of no return because it's like, oh, God. What is that other? Like, Sinister. Like how the Bagul, his like essence and things is transferred through like video media. I'm not saying the Blair Witch is like that, obviously, but there are still, indigenous people who are like, no, we don't no pictures, no flashing lights, nothing like that, because to them that represents like capturing their like soul and essence in a moment and trapping them. And I think, especially for how many that they saw, she was just inviting all of that just energy and spiritualness into that camera. And she kept it on and with her 24/7. So it's like, even though, like, let's say they did keep the map and managed to get away, who's to say that the Blair Witch wouldn't have, done like small, like whisper, like how people say, like, oh, I hear whispering or whatever. Like, who's to say it wouldn't have whispered to somebody and been like, hey, you should come back and try to go further in to find, more footage or find something else or what may have you. So I definitely think, the effigies were, while also creepy and unsettling, played a key factor in just how much more rapidly that descent of their madness fell. Because they were, Mike and Josh, not our Josh, they were a little bit oohed and odd, but then they were like, okay, we're done. I think Mike was the one who said, man, we need to pack it up and go.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely should have left at that moment, especially with those two like college characters. Like they were not like in it till the end. Like what was the girl's name? I don't remember.
Heather.
Yeah, Heather. She was like, she wanted to know every detail and everything about it, and they just seemed like they wanted to scratch the surface and get out of there, which is probably fair. Which is probably what they should have done for, especially a school project, And she was like, "Oh no, we got to go to the grave. We got to do this," and then that's when they get like super lost, and then that's kind of like at the point of no return. And like I want to say the marketing, I was looking into a little bit too. Like the marketing for this movie was pretty ingenious. It was like early internet, and they're like basically like claiming that this story was true and like the actors were missing.
They made posters and everything.
Yeah. So like if you're trying to make a low budget movie, and like I would definitely take like tips from this movie, like their marketing, and just like this is kind of like how you make it craze for a movie. So like for any like film student or anyone who's like trying to make their movie kind of be known, I would definitely like take pages from this book, like what they did. It's definitely ingenious.
Because I also did a little, I always do research for different things, but I think what just always what intrigued me most, they played this at the Sundance Film Festival. Okay, and I was like, that's a perfect place for exposure. Like, oh, here's this movie. By the way, these are also the missing posters for the three people, to make it just to add another level to the belief, like, oh, this is, like this is real shit. Like this isn't anything bogus. And then like how like low budget it was, like the profit turnaround was insane. Because I think on like the top end, it was like $750,000, and it grossed almost 250 of that in like revenue. So, it's so comparable to, like Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, or, like The Exorcist, with how they had, a lot of issues on set, but the issues on set helped add to the mystery and allure of like, oh, we got to go see it. And, anything kind of like that has, just that realness element to it where, even though it's low budget, the quality of how low budget it is adds so much to the appeal factor.
No, exactly, and like that's what helps make it more real. Like if it was like a Hollywood production, it definitely wouldn't have got the same buzz because they were like, "Oh, it's made in Hollywood." You know that
Yeah, like-
that it's like an independent film. It's like gives a little bit more realism. It's like, oh, it's underground. You know, they found it. You know.
Yeah, because this movie reminded me a lot of Josh. You recommended it a while ago. It was from one of the Evil Deads. I think it was the second one or the first one. And
Oh yeah, we did Evil Dead and Into the Woods. So it was like the first.
Into the Woods.
It was the first proto Evil Dead.
Oh my god.
Because it reminded me so much of that. I'm like, man, watching this, it reminds me so much of this other movie Josh recommended because there's so many parallels that you can say like, oh yeah, they both did this one thing really well together, or this one did Into the Woods did this pretty good, but the Blair Witch Project did this not to the same degree, but they made it seem much more realistic.
Yeah,
and I think
would agree. And they're both like student made films, you know, and like they're breaking into the industry. So like I definitely take inspiration for both of these movies, like how to kind of break into the market. It's definitely they both did it in their own way.
Mm-hmm. And I know we said a lot, you know, obviously the short before we, you know, talked about our own experiences dealing with, you know, anything spiritual. And I want to go ahead and close this out because I know it's getting a little bit later. And we said so much about this movie. I didn't think that this movie would just spark such thought-provoking conversation, considering, you know, like, yes, this is a low-budget found footage movie, but with how well it was executed, there's so many things to dissect and talk about. Because we were still not even getting into the fact of how, you know, Josh and Mike, when they were going through their slow descent, it was very visible. Like you could see that the Blair Witch's influence was already taking a strong hold, and there was nothing they could do.
Yeah, I would agree. Like the small bit of me like just wishes that we saw something. I
didn't want to see something.
You know,
like, give me something to just go with instead of it's
just him in the corner.
He's just in the corner,
right? Which is like I get it. It's like her friend like deteriorating, which is like definitely going to be traumatizing, but at the same time, like for the audience member, you kind of want to at least see it once. You know, give me the shark at least one time. You know, we don't see Jaws throughout the whole movie, but we see him at the end. Like I want to see the shark.
Yeah, like I need to see what's been terrifying.
Yeah, like even like they could have even done something pretty creative. Like I know like back in a lot of older films, like they didn't really know how to like make ghosts kind of like look like they're floating or like that kind of illusion. So they would like make these puppets and put them like into water, and they would like kind of float like that. You know, like even if it was like a quick image like that, if it looked real, like an actual physical tangible thing, it definitely would have been sold. You definitely got to do it right though. It couldn't have been like
you can't make it cheesy. You gotta have some meat to it, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Which like what they did, I definitely commend them for. It's definitely like it's definitely a movie that was always on my list. Like it feels like it's a movie you have to watch. You know, I'd never seen it. It was my first time watching it. I'm glad you had us watch it because it was like, you know, it's always those movies. It's like I said, one of those movies that like I feel like you kind of have to see. For me, like personally, it's definitely like a really well executed found footage movie. Like found footage movies aren't really like my cup of tea, you know, but like for what a found footage movie is, it's probably like the best you could kind of get out of that genre. I like personally for my own entertainment level, I'd probably give it like a 6. For like its first of a kind, one of a kind, I'd probably give it an 8. So I don't know, do with that as you will, I guess.
No, because I'm also in that same boat. Like, did I enjoy it? Like, yeah, it was an engaging movie. It was an entertaining film.
Right.
Like, personally, for me, it's like a 6, 7. More, I would say it's more a 7 than a 6. Just because growing up in Tennessee, you hear about the Blair Witch. You hear so much about it from other people that you like. Oh yeah, I know a little bit about the Blair Witch. But as far as like a viewing experience, it's a very strong 9. Like, there's so many great things to love about this movie. Like, and even the things I didn't like, especially toward the end when they were just screaming, Josh, 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 oh my God, oh my God, Josh, Mike,
exactly.
Mike, please help me. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're scared. This is the end of the movie. It's the big finale, but you've just blown my eardrums out for the last 15 minutes. Shut up. But it's, even excluding that, like, it is a very powerful film, especially, independently made, that I don't think anybody else could ever try to hope to recreate again.
No, you really can't. Like, now the cat's out of the bag. Like, found footage movies are already kind of a thing. So, like, you can't really, like, do the same marketing and pretend that it's, like, real anymore. Like, people will kind of figure it out. Oh, Tony, where'd you go? Tony!
We lost Tony.
Tony left.
Blair Witch got Tony.
Tony, why'd you do that? Well, while we try to get Tony back, we already did our reviews. So, Jerry, I guess I'm just gonna talk about the. Oh, there he is. All right, here he is. 3, 2, 1. I don't know what happened.
Tony, make your review quick.
Yeah, I kicked the power button on my computer and it almost.
Why you do that? The ghost got you.
The Blair Witch got me. Yeah. I'll make it quick. Yeah, I'd probably give it about a 7. I think it's like I've seen it a few times. I think the more you watch it, the less it's interesting it is. But like the first watch and like the history, it's like it's a very iconic movie. And I think I give it about like a 7.5.
Nice. So as we get ready to close out, Josh, if you will grace us with your picks for next episode.
Okay, so I promise you before the news that we heard earlier that I told you about, like, I was going to pick this movie regardless. You'll figure it out. We're going to do Love and Mercy, Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys story.
That's sick.
We're going to do Love and Mercy, and for the short, we're going to do Beach Boys Disney Plus documentary that's on there.
All right.
I promise you, I was gonna pick this regardless, and then Brian Wilson passed away. Like, I was like, oh man. So, you can even ask Callie; she's over there. She'll tell you. So we're gonna do this kind of soon, and then I think after this episode, we'll probably have to talk about Superman and maybe Fantastic Four, and then we'll do Tony's.
Oh yeah, Fantastic Four is coming out.
Yeah. I think it's that and the new Jurassic Park, which I could give less of a shit about. But
we're good on that one.
I'm fine not watching.
I just want to talk about Superman and maybe Fantastic Four.
I'm with that.
So if you don't want to be spoiled for Love and Mercy, make sure to watch that before next episode, which we'll figure out when we're doing that. I guess pretty soon. So,
well, let's get ready to close out. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. I know it's been a little while. My schedule was more on the crazy end this time.
No, we're all bouncing around
a bit later. It's the summer. We've been out doing summer boy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We make it happen.
But as always, this is Jerry guiding you all with Green Lantern's light.
This is Josh sending off up and away until next BatYard's finest episode.
This is Tony becoming super pals one episode at a time.
Yay! Okay, bye everybody.